The Scottsboro Boys Case, a fight for a fair trial. The American South in the early 1900s was a deeply divided place of unimaginable cruelty, where Jim Crow laws dehumanized African Americans purely because of their skin color. With slavery abolished, many thought equality was on the horizon, yet Jim Crow laws continuously segregated people and communities. They punished African Americans for the smallest actions, including eating or drinking with a white person, which often resulted in fines, arrests, or even violence. As a result, these inhumane laws made it nearly impossible for African Americans to be treated equally, especially in courts, with the Scottsboro Boys case serving as a tragic example. In 1931, an unfair court trial occurred in Scottsboro, Alabama, in which 9 African American teenagers, later known as the Scottsboro Boys, were wrongfully convicted of rape due to racial bias in court, violating their 6th and 14th Amendment rights to an impartial jury. The state of Alabama disregarded its responsibility of providing a fair trial, resulting in 2 of the boys' cases reaching the Supreme Court, in Powell v. Alabama and North v. Alabama, helping ensure adequate legal representation in jury selections for future defendants. It all began on March 25, 1931, during the Great Depression, when 9 African American teenagers boarded a Southern Railroad freight train headed to Memphis, Tennessee. The boys didn't know each other before this day, and many of them were searching for work. On the train, a group of white men started a racially charged altercation with the Scottsboro Boys. After the fight escalated, the train stopped at Paint Rock, Alabama, where the white men were forcibly removed due to their aggressive behaviors. During the commotion, 2 impoverished white women, Victoria Price and Ruby Bates, who were using the train as shelter, saw an opportunity to conceal their vagrancy charges by falsely accusing the Scottsboro Boys of rape. Clarence Norris, one of the Scottsboro Boys, explained, "I knew if a white woman accused a black man of rape, he was as good as dead. All I could think was I was going to die for something that I had not done." After the women officially placed their accusations, the boys faced a trial in Scottsboro, Alabama. The boys were assigned 2 unqualified lawyers, Milo Moody, who hadn't practiced law in decades, and Stephen Roddy, who was unfamiliar with Alabama law. The Scottsboro Boys' right to legal counsel was protected by the 6th Amendment of the United States Constitution, but it never specified that their representation must be qualified or effective. This loophole allowed Alabama to provide the boys with an inadequate legal defense, despite this clearly going against the intent of the amendment. Moreover, the Alabama court system was responsible for conducting a fair trial, but the trial was rushed as it started just 1 week after the boys' indictments, leaving the defense with insufficient time to prepare. During the trial, Alabama selected a jury of exclusively white men. As Hillwood Patterson, a Scottsboro boy, put it, "The courtroom was one big, smiling white face." Dr. R.R. Bridges, who inspected the women for signs of rape, strongly implied that the examination showed little evidence of assault. Moreover, the accusers, Price and Bates, provided inconsistent testimonies, as Price gave extremely violent descriptions while Bates mentioned little brutality in her testimony. Despite these inconsistent testimonies and medical evidence, the biased jury still found all 9 Scottsboro boys guilty, violating the boys' rights to an impartial jury as guaranteed by the 6th Amendment. Furthermore, the 14th Amendment ensures the state's responsibility of providing due process of law before depriving any citizen of their rights. Yet Alabama failed at this responsibility by providing a one-sided jury that shockingly sentenced 8 of 9 innocent Scottsboro boys to death. "Why am I sitting down, thinking of no one but you, Mama? They didn't give me a fair trial. They're going to kill us for nothing." This sparked public outcry across the nation, with many people seeing through the true injustices of this first trial. As a result, 2 organizations, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the International Labor Defense, or ILD for short, knew that the boys were truly innocent. Through persistent efforts, the ILD, which took on the case to support civil rights, convinced the boys' parents that they were the right choice. Subsequently, the ILD appointed Samuel Leibowitz, a prominent attorney from New York, as the boys' lawyer. They appealed to the Alabama Supreme Court, and the court reluctantly granted the Scottsboro boys another trial, but this new trial remained flawed due to the jury's racial bias continuing to shine through. Consequently, the ILD appealed to the Alabama Supreme Court again, but their request was denied, causing them to bring the case before the United States Supreme Court in 1932. This proceeding, Powell v. Alabama, ruled another retrial for the boys, as Alabama completely disregarded their responsibility of providing the boys with effective legal counsel. Following this, the third trial of the Scottsboro boys case ensued, yet it remained similar to the previous trial. However, this time, one of the accusers, Ruby Bates, shockingly appeared as a witness for the Scottsboro boys. Bates, feeling guilty for wrongfully condemning the innocent teenagers, admitted that she had completely fabricated the story. Despite this, the jury, still influenced by racial bias, irresponsibly sentenced some Scottsboro boys to death. These periods of constant trials and imprisonment took a toll on the boys' mental health, with many boys expressing feelings of despair. "This place is killing me. I don't see why we innocent boys should be kept here all this time for nothing." The ILD had no choice but to, once again, take the case to the United States Supreme Court, this time to address Alabama's failure to uphold the 6th and 14th Amendments, as African Americans were excluded from the jury. As a result, the 1935 case, Norris v. Alabama, led to the Scottsboro boys receiving their fourth and final trial. Increased media attention had pressured the jury to act fairly, leading to none of the boys receiving the death sentence. By the early 1940s, most Scottsboro boys were released from prison or had reduced charges due to appeals and continued public pressure. Decades passed before Alabama Governor Robert Bentley posthumously pardoned the Scottsboro boys in April of 2013. This pardon highlighted Alabama's neglected responsibility of providing fair trials and their failure in acknowledging their past mistakes. Sadly, none of the boys were alive to witness the significant moment. Additionally, the legacy of the Scottsboro boys case still impacts Americans today. For example, Powell v. Alabama helped enforce the 6th Amendment by clarifying that the government is responsible for ensuring that the legal defense is not only present, but is also qualified and effective. Similarly, Norris v. Alabama recognized the racial bias of the all-white juries in the Scottsboro boys case, leading to diverse jury selections being required for fair trials. Today, defendants are guaranteed effective lawyers and impartial juries, which were rights that the Scottsboro boys were tragically denied. The Scottsboro boys case was a wake-up call to the United States, as it highlighted the need for improvement within the judicial system. After his release from prison, Clarence Norris spoke about his experiences on death row after being unfairly prosecuted.
And you watched literally hundreds of people go to that electric chair.
Yeah, I seen them there. Go to the electric chair. I shaking hand with some going to the electric chair.
For every one white, there'd be 50 or 100 blacks.
Well, the whole time I was in the death row, there never was a white man executed.
Today, African Americans make up about 12% of the United States population and represent 41% of those on death row. Despite being a slight improvement from Norris's time, plenty of work remains to ensure the eradication of racism in court, as the percentage of African Americans on death row is extremely disproportionate to the overall percentage of African Americans in the United States. An example of these ongoing injustices is shown in the case of Henry McCollum, who was wrongfully convicted of rape and murder in 1984 until his exoneration in 2014. McCollum's unfair trial is a modern example of the violation of rights that the Scottsboro boys faced, in which a racially prejudiced jury led to devastating wrongful convictions. While these injustices are still ongoing, there are many ways for people to fight racism in courts, with the crucial first step being to actively protest these inequalities. Overall, the Scottsboro boys case was a violation of rights and a defiance of responsibilities. The injustices of the first trial led to 3 subsequent trials of the case to unfold, yet the majority of these trials remain mostly the same. Even today, racism is still present in court, as shown in the case of Henry McCollum. The Scottsboro boys, through their violated rights, exposed the Alabama court system that failed to uphold its responsibilities. For the boys, it was a fight for survival, but the case not only affected their lives, as it also had major impacts on the future of the justice system, making it a true fight for a fair trial.